Welcome back to the Exactly Entertainment podcast. This is episode 7. Today we are going to talk all things Breaking Bad, what we liked about it, well, maybe some things we didn't like about it, although that it's probably far and few between, and what more we want to see from the universe. So joining me is my co-host Matt Lyons. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good.
How are
So
you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing good. Um, let's get right into some Breaking Bad.
All right, so Derek, as you know, Breaking Bad, it's my favorite show of all time. I think it's the best show that has ever been on TV. Although I have not seen, I don't know, MASH, The Sopranos. Sopranos is on my list. But from what I have seen, Breaking Bad's the best, as you can see by my Los Pollos Hermanos t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started, I just want to say we are going to talk about everything in the show. So if you have not seen it, go watch it. You will not regret it. And then come back here and join this discussion. So, to start off, Derek, for our first episode, we talked about our favorite movies and TV shows.
Yeah, first
Obviously, as
two.
I've said, Breaking Bad was my number one. Now that you've finished the show, where would this lie in your ranking?
Right. So in episode 2 of the podcast, which is when we did the shows, I had not finished Breaking Bad. I think I was on season 2 or 3, and I think the best of the show is definitely 4 and 5.
Absolutely.
So I didn't really have enough to place it. I know you have a lot more like nostalgia and whatnot towards the show because you watched it a long time ago,
Yeah,
right?
long ago.
Long ago. Where did you watch any of it live?
Unfortunately, no. I binged it
No.
all, I want to say 2015, maybe
Yeah.
2014,
So
somewhere around there.
I just never got around to it. I'm happy I did. It's a great show. It's one of those shows you can talk to, anyone about it, or a lot of people know about it at least. Um, it definitely makes it up there. Here's where it gets to a little bit of a gray area. I believe you're right in saying it's the best show to television, or the best show that I've seen as well. I agree with you there. I just don't know if it's quite my favorite, if that makes any sense. Just,
Yeah. You mean
um
like in terms of quality, it's the best, but like your
yes, in
favorite, it's not
terms
there?
of quality and acting and just, yeah,
Gotcha.
quality, overall quality, I guess. It's the best show I've seen, but it might not just be my number one favorite. Although that's not to say I didn't like it, because I love this show. Wow, is it good? So yeah, that's kind of where I stand with Breaking Bad. It's definitely top 3 material. It's probably number 1, if definitely number 1 if I was ranking my best instead of favorite. But um yeah, we'll see how it kind of sits, cuz I think about it a lot, having recently finished it and having started Better Call Saul. And I saw the movie, and I've been watching a ton of, like the old interviews with the cast on
Oh yeah.
YouTube and whatnot, which is always fun to do with any show. So
I
yeah,
I think it's like a fine wine, like it gets better over time.
yeah.
Because if you asked me a few years ago, I don't think it would have been my number one. Probably would have been
Especially
two or
where
three.
especially where Walking Dead was, in its prime back
Oh
then,
yeah.
and
Yeah. I was
you know,
like the biggest Walking Dead fan.
still on that Walking Dead train and whatnot. So
Yeah. Haven't left this I haven't gotten off the train yet, but
no,
it's
I'm
it's
like
coming to a
hanging
stop.
off by like 1 foot off the
Getting
back of the
dragged over the
caboose.
tracks.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm still on it. So
Yeah.
um
I just kept thinking about it more and more.
mhm.
I'd go back and I'd watch like some of my favorite clips. And then I think when Roman started watching it, those of you who have seen the past two episodes know Roman Cipolo. When he started watching it, he mentioned it to me at lunch.
Mhm.
And as you know, we would like talk about it the entire
The
lunch
point where I
period.
couldn't get you to talk about anything else.
I know we would just get like in these deep conversations for at least
Yeah.
30
Oh
minutes.
yeah, yeah. Avengers Endgame's coming out and stuff. Oh no, no. But then Jesse did this and then that. I'm like,
That's exactly how it went. And I
yeah,
think when he like was talking about it, he got me like right back where I was. And I started
yeah,
thinking about it more and more. And when we were having those conversations, I'm like, you know what? This is my favorite show.
yeah. See,
Hands down.
Roman's good at that, because the same thing happened with the boys shortly before. Um, Not to get too off topic, but shortly before season 2 started, I got Roman into season 1, and then The Boys was like always on my mind leading up to
Yeah,
season
it
2, which got
relights
me
the
more
fire.
excited. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah. So that's always cool. Um,
So,
what
Derek,
do
what are
you-
your favorite moments from Breaking Bad?
there's a lot. Um, I this is gonna sound like super dark, but I love in a story when a likable character gets dragged through the mud,
Oh
and
yeah.
that just like is good storytelling to me. So most of my favorite scenes are at Jesse's expense. I like when he kills Gale. That's a
Mm.
big one for me. Um, some of Say My Name's obviously a classic one. Um, Saul's first scene, I'm a big fan of Saul. Um, Gus when he the whole box cutter incident.
Mm.
When he walks out into the sniper fire, when they kill like the whole cartel. There's just so many, obviously, so many scenes in the ending, but one scene in particular, it's weird because I almost feel like it shouldn't be my favorite, but I like can't stop thinking about it. It's such like a minor thing, and it's at the very end of the second to last episode, the very end, and Walt, he picks up the phone and he's, I'm reporting on the Walter White case. Who's this? And he says Walter White, and the cops start coming, and he's sitting there and he's seeing everything like fall apart, and he watches, his old partners, um, trash him and say he
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the company,
Mm.
and that just kind of pushes him over the edge. He was going to give up, and the music you've listened to at the beginning of every episode is blasting out of your TV, and the cops bust in there, and everyone's, the bartender's putting his hands up, everyone's, screaming, and then it pans over to, like his whiskey glass, and it
Oh, yeah.
still has some in, and there's 100 bartender, and you hear that, that chime.
Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that is one of my favorites, and I think it's very underrated scene. So
I agree with
there's a
you.
lot. I didn't even list all the ones that I liked. Like there's just so many. The hospital scene with Jesse, I could do
Oh
this
yeah.
all day. But yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? Any that I missed? I'm sure I covered a lot, but
You
and I'm
did.
sure
I
there's
think
a lot that I missed.
when I realized that this show is on like the next level, it was crawl space. When Walt's in the crawl space looking for the money and he just
Yeah.
starts laughing as like the world falls apart around him. I love that scene.
Yeah.
I remember my sister and I we binged the show together, but there were times when she would watch an episode ahead of me and I would just become enraged. So as retribution, I'd watch one ahead of her.
Oh, nice.
And I watched that one ahead of her. And I remember I had like the biggest smile across my face.
Yeah.
And I said, Abby, stop what you're doing. Forget about your homework. You need to watch this. I had like chills for the longest time. Just the
It's
way like the phone is ringing and you can hear Marie like, Skylar, it's happening again. I don't know why this keeps happening. And Walter's just
yeah.
laughing his ass off. Oh, it gives me the chills.
Yeah.
So cool.
It's like when I was when we went to see Infinity War.
Oh yeah.
And snapped, and all you heard was yes.
The theater is dead silent. And Derek just goes, yes. And I'm like, Derek, this is a time of mourning. You should not be
I
celebrating.
was so happy. I thought Thor was gonna. I thought we weren't gonna see it, but yeah, I completely understand because it's like this crazy. Oh, you gave the money to Beneke, and he's just freaking out, and Skylar's face. Oh yeah, so good.
The
Crawl
thing that
space.
Breaking Bad does amazingly is sorry, I just hit the mic. They take like the A story, the B story, C story, D story, and they just have them collide
Yeah,
in the perfect way. Like some shows, like the different storylines, they're separate and they
right.
don't matter. Like if you thought about it in the beginning of like season 4, back half of season 3, whenever Beneke was introduced, he seemed like such a minor, insignificant character.
Right.
And the fact that like just those little things came together just to screw with Walt, and
Mhm.
so his plan would fall apart. Just stuff like that, I love.
Yeah, yeah. But even stuff with like, the Walt Whitney book.
Oh
and
yeah.
like stuff like that. Another scene that I really love is the way that season 4 ends. Both the I won and then when it shows the
Lily of the Valley.
Lily of the Valley there in his backyard.
Yeah.
Um, I know. I think this could be a fun discussion. People like to, try and determine different points in the series that Walt breaks bad, right? So, some people say it's when he let Jane die. Some people say it's as early as, the first episode. Some people say it's when he says, this is my territory. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
him like Breaking Bad. Um, do you have a specific instance when you think he breaks bad?
Um, I mean, I guess I agree with that. He broke bad the first episode, but I think he definitely with all those moments you listed, he just got deeper and deeper in this world because he was like such a broken man. He really had nothing. So as soon as that fuse was lit, of now he has a purpose in life, and it's something that's dangerous, it's exciting, it's thrilling to him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's really when he says that to Jesse, like, do you want to like
Want to
team
go?
up?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the first part.
Yeah. So for me, it's hard because towards the beginning, you really do see, even after he kills someone, you really do see that he is doing this for his family. It's hard to pinpoint where, but I feel like there's a shift once he like feels that power that it goes from, oh, I'm doing this for my family to now that's an excuse and I'm doing this because I like it and I like the way it makes me feel. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? So
yeah,
it's hard to pinpoint exactly where that is, but one that I have heard a lot is when he says this isn't meth, and he like when he goes
oh yeah,
back after Jesse gets hurt, and people say that because that's when you first see him bald and the whole Heisenberg look.
yeah.
Um, but it's very debated. People say it's not till he lets Jane die, um, which I think is a little late. I think he's kind of in it before then,
Yeah.
but
But like you said, it's debatable. I mean,
it
I
is
I definitely
completely debatable.
see why people view it that way.
Right. Yeah, it's completely debatable because, like you said, he breaks bad, and I believe Bryan Cranston has also said that it's in episode 1.
Hmm.
Once, I think this isn't the exact quote, but he says something like, "He breaks bad when he tries to be someone he's not," or
Hmm.
something along those lines. That's what Bryan Cranston said, and that happens in episode 1. Um, so that could definitely be it. I would be very interested on Vince Gilligan's perspective on that. I don't think he'd ever say because that's just kind of the guy he is.
Yeah.
But it's very interesting because that's the whole point of the show. So
Right.
yeah.
Going back to something you said that there was a shift. Do you believe that? Because I personally believe that he was. I don't know. Part of me believes that he's always doing it for himself,
Hmm.
but he was tricking himself into thinking that he was
Yeah.
doing it for his family. Do you
Yeah.
believe that, or?
So after watching the whole show after like an extended period of time, I agree with what you're saying. But if you go back and you really watch like when Tuco killed one of his guys at that scrapyard, like the terror on his face and like the scene preceding that when he's with Jesse and he says the exact amount of money that he wants, like
Mhm.
it really does feel like maybe he's lying to himself, but it really does feel like he doesn't want to do this. I feel like it's really not until he gets that power. Once he
Really?
feels that control, I don't
Hmm.
know.
The
It's
moment
so
I'm thinking of. Oh, sorry. You go first.
no, go ahead. I was done.
The moment I think of is in the first episode when these complete assholes are making fun of Walter Jr.
Hmm.
And Skylar says, just ignore them. And Walt gets this feeling of how dare they? And rather than going up and saying hey, don't do this, he goes out the door around the front and takes the guy out.
Yeah,
I think and you can see even
and
Skylar and
he,
Walt's Jesus, take it down a notch. You
yeah,
could see he was enjoying that.
oh yeah,
He wanted that
that's true.
power.
And even when he goes to his boss at the car wash, and he shows him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. God, it's so hard.
Because
I
I
don't.
mean,
It's
he
hard
wouldn't
to
have done that if if
the
Walter
call.
Jr. wasn't like bullied, but at the same time, he didn't have to do it to that extent.
Right. It's unarguable the fact that he gets more and more carried away as the show
Mm,
goes on. He starts, you see him really struggle to take a life at the beginning, and Crazy Eight wasn't the best guy around, but he still had sympathy for him.
right.
And then you see him just senselessly kill, and even you know towards the end of season 5, he really wanted Jesse dead because he ratted on him.
Yeah.
He really wanted the Nazis to kill him, like, even after all they'd been through together. And yeah, and poisoning a child, that's another time that people
That's
say Breaks Bad. It's just
yeah.
so debatable. And that's definitely one of the big mysteries of the show that people are never going to be able to fully with 100% certainty lock down. But I think overall Walt was just fed up with everything. Even in the first episode, I remember this scene specifically. The glove compartment on his car is broken, and he's slapping it back in there to try and keep it stuck in there. And it's just everything. And then once I think the cancer, the news of that really gives him another excuse in
Yeah.
his own mind that he's on a ticking clock. But yeah, I think he just really likes control. And a lot of what fuels him is, his masculinity and, his
I'm a man.
need,
I got to provide
his
for my
need
family.
to maintain that. He won't take charity. He hears things from people, Gretchen offers him money. Hank says, I'll always take care of your family if you don't make it. And that's probably the
Ooh,
worst thing Hank could have said to him.
I know. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just crazy, man.
Uh, Going off of what you said about his masculinity,
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one of my favorite moments, and I completely forgot about this moment until I was watching it with my mom because she, over the quarantine, finally got around to binging it. And it's at they're having a cookout, and it's Walter Jr. and Hank at a table,
Drinking.
and they're like pouring the I think tequila maybe.
Yeah, something
And
like that.
yeah, Walter Jr. like looks at Hank, and Walt just completely shuts down and goes, "What are you looking at him for?"
Yeah.
And like freaks out. It's so well acted.
Yeah, it is. It's really, really well acted. Um, Another scene that I forgot to mention. Oh, hold on, now I'm forgetting it again. Um,
There's so many.
there's so many. There's so many good ones. The show does such a good job of balancing even comical aspects into it too, with Bill Burr's character and Huel as
Yeah.
well. Um, they just do such a good job, even like you said earlier, with planting seeds and paying that off later. Like, they do it a lot. Like, you see Todd, and he's just one of the guys that was at the extermination business, where they were like tenting the houses. He was just another one of their goons, and then Todd becomes, this big character once
Mm.
he kills the kid. And he keeps the tarantula, which is completely messed up.
Oh, what a sicko.
Yeah, he's no good.
Yeah.
Um, but it just does so good with that. Oh, I remember the scene. I'm in the Empire business. That's the one I
Oh
was thinking
yeah.
of. That scene really shows how far Walt's come and
Yeah.
how far gone he really is. It's crazy to think that this show only takes place over the course of like 2 years. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing, and this is like all over the internet now, and I want to know if you know it or if you noticed it. After Walt kills someone, he adopts their character traits. So after he kills Crazy Eight, he starts cutting the crust off his sandwiches,
yeah,
which he never did before.
I saw that.
Um, After he kills Gus, he lays his jacket down like on his knees before he throws up, which Gus did after he ingested the poison.
Hmm.
And Mike always had like a scotch on the rocks, and Walt always had it neat. And then after he killed Mike, he had it on the rocks. And it's the little moments like that
Wow.
is what
Yeah, I
make
didn't
the
notice. Like, yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's Vince Gilligan, man. He's a
He's a
genius.
genius. So
Even
smart.
oh my goodness, dude. Even I know like there's something with like the episode titles is either in season 2 where it's like flight
Yeah.
whatever down over Albuquerque,
Yeah.
and those episodes are the ones that have the flash forwards with the bear,
Yeah.
and that's really neat. He's just so smart.
Yeah. I was
I
reading, like for his pitch in the show that he wanted to take Mr. Chips and over the end of the show turn him into Scarface.
right.
And that probably sounded ridiculous, but the fact that he did that and he did it
Yeah.
so well, it's unbelievable.
Now, there's two types of people who watch this show. There's those who root for Walt to the dying end when he's dying, bleeding out in the meth lab, to those who, start to turn against him. So my question, I guess, would be, did you root for him all the way through, or did you kind of turn against him? And if you did, when did you turn against him?
That's a great question. The first time I watched it, I was with Walt all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And like I always like supported Jesse, but in the end game I always wanted Walt to like give the money to his family
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another, like not get away with it, but I wanted him to come out on top in some way.
Yeah.
But when I was watching it with my mom, she knew like some of the major events
Okay.
like before she saw it, and she hated Walt like from the first episode.
Oh,
She'd be like,
really?
"Oh, this guy's such an ass," and I'm like, "Mom, you're supposed to root for him." And she like hated him all the way through, and I never really like saw it that way until I rewatched it. I was like, "Oh, I get what you're saying." What about you? Did you fall off of Walt's side at some point?
So it's weird because I felt like I was rooting for him for so long, but then you just look back and it's like the little things, because you're so glued to this character, because you sympathize for him so much. But then there's like the I'm in the Empire business that just remind you, like, no, he's not a good guy. He's doing awful things. You In the same way that he makes excuses for himself, you start to make excuses for him.
Yeah,
And it's just, it almost takes like reflecting. Like if you don't think enough about it and you just watch the show, you can like completely just root for him the whole time. But if you
yeah,
really stop and think about how messed up he is, I held on for a long time. Now I'm a big Jesse fan. I When he killed Jane, that shook it a little bit, but for some reason, I just still held on. When he poisoned Brock, I still somehow held on.
held
I
on.
made excuses for myself.
Hmm.
This is because I was so engrossed in the show. You gotta understand, I was watching like 10 episodes a day. Like it was unhealthy amounts of Breaking Bad. So I wasn't thinking a lot. I was just absorbing more, give me more Breaking Bad. So it didn't really hit me. It hit me way too late. I should have been against him way earlier, but it hit me in the second to last episode. Everything hit at once. When Walt reveals Jesse's hiding location under the car
Hmm.
and tells him that he kills Jane, I was like, what the? As soon as he did that, everything went into my head. I was like, oh, look, you've done so many awful things. Everything kicked in at once that I should have, picked up as I went along, but it all went straight to my head as soon as he gave Jesse over to those Nazis and, begged him to kill him.
Yeah.
So that's when it was for me.
I want to talk a little bit more about that because that, I don't know about you, but that is my favorite episode of the series.
Ozymandias?
Osmandius, yeah. Is that for you or no?
The last one.
The last one? Oh, okay,
Helena.
interesting.
Helena's my favorite.
Um, so I think obviously that's a huge episode. I think that is like the most significant moments in the show, like in one episode.
Yeah, I really want to rewatch those three, the last
Yeah,
three. I need to
the
get on.
Trinity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but the way like so Hank dies,
Mm-hmm.
which is a huge moment, and they did that in the teaser at the beginning. which is like shocking.
Yeah.
And then not only that, Walter goes home, and I think my favorite scene in that episode is when Skylar grabs a knife and points it at him and says, "Get out."
Hmm.
And he like scoffs at it. He's like, "Skylar, come on." And then she stabs him.
Yeah.
And they like full out brawl.
Yeah.
And then when Walter Jr. tackles him and like stands behind his mother, I think that's the most like dramatic scene in the whole show. And he goes, "We're a family." And then he realizes that he
Then
really
he
screwed
kicks
up.
us out and runs. Yeah. That's just crazy. And then another scene in that episode, I think, yeah, it's got to be in that episode when, he's on the phone, he knows the cops are listening. So
Yeah.
he's saying all these horrible, horrible things, you know, he crossed me. He had to die. I did what he had to do. If you cross me, I'll do the same thing to you, just to make her a victim
Yeah.
instead of, instead of, an accomplice. So that was just crazy. That's just such a good episode. You just see Walt's world fall apart, and it's just so good. What else do you like about that episode? Before I talk about my favorite episodes, the finale.
When Skylar runs down the street after he kidnaps Holly, like you said, the phone call, which like he does care about them, obviously, but that's like proactive. Like he did that after he, like tackled her to the ground and stole her baby. Um, and I like the ending of that, like with him and Saul. And Saul's like forget this. I'm going to Omaha, running a Cinnabon. Like I'm not doing this anymore.
Which is funny how
And
that's
Walter's
actually
like,
what he ends up doing.
yeah. And Walter's like, no, like you and I are both in this. And Saul's like, it's over. Like whatever you think is left, like it's not there. Like I'm going, I'm gone. I really like that scene too. They
Yeah,
didn't say that. I just paraphrased all that.
right. Because when he tried to say it's over, he, told him it's not over till he said it's over. But
Yeah.
it's definitely over at that point in time. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the finale is I just love that episode so much. But a few more things on Ozymandias. Seeing Walt all alone in the mountains, like it's just so different from what we've seen before. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? This whole show has been in New Mexico, and then all of a sudden, he's up in New Hampshire, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, up in New Hampshire, and he paid someone what $10,000 just for him to stay for another 2 hours.
Yeah.
You know, and just to see like what's come of the last 5 seasons in that episode, that's really when you see like what it's all amounted to.
Yeah.
So and it leads perfectly into the finale, which I talked about that last scene in that episode earlier and how much I love it.
Yeah.
But I feel like in a way the last 3 episodes all could have been an ending to the show. That's when Walt loses everything, in Granite State, right? Or am I confusing the titles around?
No, it's Ozymandias, Granite State, and then Felina.
Okay, maybe I'm thinking of Granite State. The ending Granite State.
Yeah, with the whiskey. That's a
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. Yeah, but even throughout, Granite State, just seeing, yeah, like I said, just seeing what comes of everything. It's just crazy to see Jesse after all he's already been through. That he's
killed Andrea.
in a oh my god, he's in a cage. He's all scarred up. Then you even see like during that time period in El Camino, he's treated like a dog. He's sprayed down for baths by like a power wash or a hose or whatever. Even the way that Todd talks to him, he's I'm gonna keep you more clean. I'm gonna take better care of you, like a dog.
Yeah, you did good today. Like you get ice cream.
Yeah, like you
Like,
get
oh my
get some
god.
pizza on the way back. And it's just so well crafted, and it's sad. It doesn't make you feel good. It leaves you uneasy to see what's that Walt reaching out to Jesse in the first episode to cook leads to all this terrible Jesse is rock bottom. He is a slave. And then you even see, like I said, in El Camino, they're making him run back and forth. It's not like he's just a business slave. It's not like he's just. We're probably gonna get demonetized for using that word a ton, but um, they make him. They torture him. They make him run back and forth to try and break the contraption, and they kill his girlfriend, and they. It's not like they keep him around just to, cook. They beat him up, they scar him, and a lot of the reason that they give themselves for doing that type of stuff, he's a rat. He
Mhm.
gave up what Todd did. He gave up everyone. He exposed the whole story to the DEA, and in that, not culture, but in that life, when you're a criminal like that, like ratting's like the worst thing you can do, to those type of people. That's just how they think. So when Jesse ever did that, it just wasn't good. But moving over to the finale, you want to talk about the finale first, and then I'll give my input.
Sure. I love the finale. It was a perfect end of the show. Um, I think I said maybe in our Ozark predictions, I love when a show ends in a way that's unexpected, but it's satisfying because Walt, you can look at it different ways, and there's so many different interpretations. You can say, like, he won, he lost because he died, and his family hates him. But at the same time, I mean, he kind of got everything. He made peace with Jesse in some way, shape, or form,
Yeah.
depending on, how the audience views it. Gretchen and Elliot, I believe that they would give the money to Walter Jr.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Um, and like, I mean, he even said to them when he was threatening them, like, this is where you get to make it right.
mhm.
And he died on his own terms. He wasn't in prison. He didn't die from cancer. He died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound from a
in his meth lab or in a meth lab.
and yeah, in his true home where he felt the happiest in some sick, twisted way.
Right.
But I thought it was a perfect end of the show. And I think one of the most satisfying scenes in the whole series is when he says goodbye to Holly and his last conversation with Skylar, and he says, like, I need you to know. And she goes, if you tell me that you did this for the family one more time, and then he said, I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And
Made
it's
me
a
feel
perfect
alive.
bookend of the show. Because in the first scene, you see, not the first scene, in the first episode, you see like the chemistry awards that he's won,
Hmm.
and gray matter, uh, tech or gray matter, something
Yeah.
company that he founded that he got cheated out of. The fact that he finally was the best at something
Yeah.
and everyone knew it.
That's what he
He's
wanted.
Heisenberg. That's all he wanted. He wanted that pride. He wanted that. Such a good show. It was a perfect ending.
Yeah. There's so much I love about the ending, but one of my favorite aspects is how Walter White, he moves in and out of scenes like a ghost, like he's already dead. You
Mm.
know, like there'll be scenes that are already happening and he'll appear in them, with Todd and
Uncle Jack,
no, the woman
Lydia,
Lydia. Yeah, thank you.
hate her.
Todd and Lydia, yeah, hit them both. Todd and Lydia are at the coffee shop, and they're just talking, and then you see him like walk past in the background. Then you see
Yeah.
him pull a chair over, and it doesn't cut at all. It stays right on that shot. And then
Mm.
when he shows up, Skylar's on the phone with Marie, and it pans past a post or like a
Yeah.
pole in their house, and then when it gets to the other side, he's already there. It's just so cool the way he just moves in and out of scenes like a ghost, like he's already gone.
Yeah.
And he's doing his he's tying up all his loose ends. He's doing his victory lap. He's finishing everything. There's so many great scenes in that episode, when he is panicking in the car and then the keys fall down from above. Um, like you said, I liked it. I was good at it. Made me feel alive. That was a phenomenal. I do this every episode when I try and say that word. It was a great scene. Um, there's just so much when he saves Jesse. Just such a badass scene with the gun in the back of the car, and you think he's taking him in the ground because he's mad at him, but no, he's trying to protect him.
Yeah.
And I don't think he originally intended to do that because he
No.
went there thinking Jesse was a partner there. He thought, but then that's why, you hear, what's the Nazi? Yeah, Uncle Jack.
Uncle
Yeah,
Jack, yeah.
you hear Uncle Jack repeatedly say the word partner. This is my partner, 50-50 partner.
Hmm.
Ain't that right, partner? And Walt hears in his head, because he kept telling Jesse he was his partner throughout the whole thing. Even though he had control, you hear him throughout the whole season, every season. That's how we got him back into it after the hospital scene, 50-50 partners, right? Yeah, 50-50 partners. So he's sitting there looking at Jesse and how destroyed Jesse is at this point. He's got the beard, the hair, all the scars on his face. He's in literal shackles, and he's hearing the word repeated over and over again while he's looking right at him. And he's barely looking at him. At that, he can barely make eye contact. He's hearing partner.
That's such an
Partner,
interesting interpretation of that.
and
I've
then
never thought of it
I
that
think
way.
that's what pushes him over the edge to decide to save him. So I just thought that was really cool. And
I've never thought of it
the
that
only
way.
reason I picked that up is because I watched that scene so many times on YouTube, and I'm like, "What? Who's saying that? Who's saying partner?" Like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, and I kind of put that together, and I was like, "Wow."
I've never thought of it that way. The way I viewed that scene was he said he wanted Jesse to die with everybody else. And, the car was only pointed, or the gun in the car was only pointed in that room.
Right.
And he said, like, oh, he's your partner, just to trigger Uncle Jack, because he knew Jack would bring him out and say, oh, look at my partner. Because I think he wanted
Oh.
Jesse to get shot with everybody else. And then once he saw him so broken down, he was like he was my partner. Like, I still,
Okay.
care about him.
I understand.
That's
So
the
the
way I
way
saw it.
I interpret it was that he thought Jesse was actually his partner.
Hmm.
You think he knew he was the slave there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not so much a slave, but I think he knew that.
It was
Well,
against
kind
his
of.
will.
Yeah.
Right. Because the way I interpret, because he's in the car with Skinny Pete and Badger earlier in the episode.
Mhm.
And he's Badger or Skinny Pete, one of them's like, oh, like you're cooking again. Like I've seen the blue stuff around. And that's when he realizes Jesse's still cooking. He doesn't know before that. He doesn't know that his stuff's still out there.
Right.
I think he assumes that Jesse's dead because he had Jack kill him. If you recall, remember he
Yeah.
told
Yeah.
Jack to kill him. So I think he assumed Jesse was dead, or that's again how I interpret it.
Hmm.
So then when he finds out that his stuff's back out there, because I forget, but doesn't he say, "Oh, you told me you'd kill him. You told me you'd kill him."
Yeah.
Like, isn't he?
You still owe me Pinkman.
Yeah,
You know, you're working together. You're partners. Jack
yeah.
goes, "What did you just say? Like, how dare you?"
Right. That's something. So he definitely probably did say that to draw him out. Because it's kind of like demoralizing Jack. But I think part of him also believed that like Jesse has a willing hand in this. I don't know for sure if he knew Jesse was there against his will. I don't know that for sure. But I don't know. But at the same time, does he think that Jesse would want to do that? Because Jesse wanted out.
Yeah.
It's just hard. But
And Walt knew how much he hated Todd.
right. That's another thing. And
I know.
Jesse killing Todd was so satisfying.
I know.
But
that bastard needed to go.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. It's hard to kind of tell. I could see it either way, but I think the thing with partner still holds true.
Yeah.
What I said before. I think that is when he decided, when he heard that and he was just looking at him. I think that's what made him decide to keep him alive. I don't think he went there with the intention on saving Jesse whatsoever.
Right.
He wanted him to, like you said, he wanted him to with everyone else. But when he heard partner, and he's looking at him and just how broken Jesse was, he didn't have his head up. He was like looking down.
He looked like a dog. That's like
like a beat dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
I feel like there's a lot of symbolism with Jesse and like being a dog throughout the series. His loyalty. You always hear about a dog's loyalty and how his loyalty is always brought up. Walt almost treats him like a dog, like how it like kind of simplifies a lot of things and, only tells him what he needs him to know. But during that process, he's still calling him partner, partner, partner. We're 50-50 partners. He oftentimes, Walt will say it's all about himself all the time. Oh, this is about me. When they were outside the laundromat after Jesse was on all those trips with Mike, Walt said, "Oh, this is all about me. He's trying to see how he's trying to turn you against me." So, very interesting, that symbolism there. But the ending was just so good. Walt's final victory lap, tying up all his loose ends. Um, it just worked as an ending.
Yeah.
It's so hard to end a TV show, and not a lot of shows pull it off, but it was even better than I had expected. Just to see Jesse escape from that hell that he was in. I thought that the show might end with Jesse still being there, and I don't know if I could have handled that.
I know.
Just knowing that for the rest of eternity, Jesse would be doing that in that condition, and just to see him, scream. I saw an interview where Aaron Paul said that took almost a full day, him screaming as he's leaving. It might have been for El Camino to recreate it.
Yeah.
I think that's what I heard. It took them a full day to do that on El Camino just to, get him back into that mind frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I have no complaints about the finale. So, yeah.
One thing I want to ask you about. So I read Bryan Cranston. He wrote an autobiography. It was very good, and he talked a lot about Breaking Bad in it. And he said that actors, they have like a very specific like vision of what their character is, who they are. I mean, it's their job. They have to like understand someone.
Yeah.
And he said that he not fought, but kind of debated with the director of 507, I think, the episode, or 506, where Mike died.
Yeah.
Because so after he shoots Mike, and Mike is just sitting on the log looking out at the river, he's like, "Oh, I just realized I could get the names from Lydia." And Bryan Cranston hated that. He said, he's like, "Oh, Walt is supposed to be like, like he does bad things, but he's not like a bad person, and that just makes him look like a dick." He said,
Yeah.
"I don't think that's what Walter should say. I don't like it." And they went back and forth. And Jonathan Banks, who plays Mike, was kind of getting a little bit aggravated because it was his last day. And they were
Right.
taking so much time, and they only had like so many hours of sunlight left. And they're going back and forth. And Bryan Cranston was kind of like, "All right, fine. Like, you're the director. We only have like so much time left." So he did it. And it always like sat with him. Like, he hated that, how Walter said that. And he watched the episode with his wife. And as soon as Walter said that, she went, "Ugh, what a jerk." And Bryan Cranston was like, I knew it. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Did that bother you at all? Or what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Now that you say that, in Cranston's performance, you can kind of notice that a little bit. Not like
Mhm.
thinking back to that scene. Like it sounded like he was like reluctant. No, not reluctant, but kind of like, I don't know. I'd have to listen to it again. But yeah. I don't know. I I feel like I'm not that it doesn't bother me that much. Cuz he tried to get the names from Mike. You know, Mike never liked Walter.
No.
Mike was about to kill him multiple times. Jesse like literally had to jump between them to
Yeah.
stop him from killing him. Um, Mike was always foiling his plans. Mike was kind of, not great to him either. He was kind of, rubbing it in that he was taking all this money away to pay these people off.
Yeah.
So in the end, yeah, it didn't bother me that much that he goes, "Oh, I just realized I can get the names from Lydia." It
Yeah.
didn't it didn't bother me that much.
It didn't bother me either. I mean, I get why, we thought that way, but to me it was like Walter, like, he's not like this hardened criminal. I mean, he is, but when he killed Mike, he was kind of like thinking out loud.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a human moment. But I get what he was saying. I don't know. I just thought about that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So for the last topic here,
Yeah.
uh, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, El Camino,
What's
they
next?
all expand on this amazing Breaking Bad universe. Now, I know you haven't finished Better Call Saul yet,
We're working on it.
and we've got one more season left, season 6.
When's
It's
that
weird to
start?
think that outlasted Breaking Bad.
Yeah. When's that start? I'd like to get caught up in time.
Um, they haven't started production yet, I don't
Oh,
think.
nice. Oh, I have plenty of
So
time.
you,
Then.
yeah, you have plenty of time.
Excellent.
Um,
Excellent.
so that's gonna. I have complete faith that that will end perfectly.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I trust Vince Gilligan to the grave. He could
yeah,
do anything, and I would watch it. And all the cast and crew has said the same thing, especially Aaron Paul. I saw
yeah,
so many interviews about El Camino where everyone's saying, Aaron, this was the perfect ending. How is this going to go forward? And every time he says the same thing, and he says, "I trust Vince Gilligan. He's going to get it right no matter what he does."
yeah.
And I agree 100%. He's a genius.
How or would you like them to elaborate on this Breaking Bad universe? And if so, how so? Would
Yeah,
you want more movies? Would you want another TV show? What are your thoughts?
yeah. Anything. I would take anything more Breaking Bad. Just give it to me.
Yeah,
Some things that I would like explored more. Um, Huh. I feel like I want to watch once I finish Better Call Saul. I'll have better answers for you because I have a feeling a lot of things I'm gonna say have already probably been explored in that, and I know that they are from like what Roman's told me and stuff. A lot of like stuff with Hector and um, Gus and all that. Um, I would like maybe another movie would be cool, opposed to, continuously doing series. I do like how there's always kind of a Breaking Bad series. So maybe I guess what I would like is maybe a year after Better Call Saul, have a movie come out, then wait another year, and then maybe do another show. I think that would be cool. Um,
what would you want the show to be about? A movie?
and the movie. So the movie,
Would you want it to be about like a specific character in the show
yeah,
or
yeah.
just a
They
new
did such a
person?
good job with all the characters in the show.
Yeah,
Um, I think it would be really cool to do like grab some like random character that wasn't even like, you know, explored very much at all and kind of show us what they're all about. And
hmm,
maybe even if it's like someone who like ends up dying, because you got to remember Vince Gilligan can make like really compelling stories about any character. So even I don't know why this popped right into my head. Even if it was like movie, I probably went to a whole show around this, around those two drug dealers that Walt runs over. And then like at the end of the movie, it leads right to the events when they
hmm.
just get run over and you learn all about these people and why they do the things they do and why they function the way they function. And it doesn't sound that appealing. Who cares about those guys? But Vince Gilligan will make you care about those
Right.
guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And make you interested in those guys. But something like that. Not necessarily those guys. Maybe it can be someone else. Maybe we can get a Huel origin story. Maybe we can, have Bill Burr come back for like something.
Hmm.
Um, as for a series, that's hard because that's much more like long term instead of just two guys that gonna get run over.
Would you
Um,
prefer like a series or like a limited series, like 10 episodes and then stop?
Ooh. See, I don't know because Vince is really good at stretching out the story and making payoffs over time. I don't know if 10 episodes is enough for him to breathe. Where I feel like with other shows like The Boys, like The Mandalorian, that's a perfect format for those. I feel like these longer term series are better for Vince. I feel like that's what he thrives in that environment. So I gave a movie idea. What do you think for another show? If you would want it to be expanded on at all.
I, like you said, I love Vince Gilligan. I actually have a little Funko Pop guy of him
Oh, nice.
chilling on my desk. Um, I have complete faith in him and the whole team. As I'm sure you know, like, they had the same crew from Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, El Camino. Like they always had the same
Yeah.
crew and things like that. I mean, it's also perfect. Like after Breaking Bad, I kind of felt like, oh, it's a perfect show, leave it alone. And I saw Better Call Saul. I'm like, okay, this show is amazing, and it's the perfect prequel, and it's perfect in its own way. But we should leave it alone. But now that I think about it, I kind of want like a new series or movie that has nothing to do with Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul or El Camino. It's its own thing, but it lives in that same world.
Yeah.
And maybe they make like a series and a movie about, I don't know, like cops or someone or
Yeah.
something. But like maybe like if they do like a show and a spin-off or two movies, they have like references to Breaking Bad.
Right.
Like it's just a random movie about these people, but in the background you see like it's the 10th anniversary of Walter White's death, something
Right.
like that. Or you see like the blue crystal in the
Yeah.
background, just little things like that.
Yeah. I think that would be good for a series. I think if they're gonna do a movie, I would like something more directly related. I feel like it'd be kind of weird to do a
Yeah.
movie that's not direct, like call it whatever, a Breaking Bad movie, and not have it be directly related. But I think for a show, I think that would work really well. Even
Yeah.
if you hear in the show how the blue meth is distributed like all over the place. So even if it was somewhere else where the only thing in common with Breaking Bad is that there's this blue meth here, and then they're trying to take maybe someone else just is in charge. They don't go too in depth on how like Gus's distribution works, but maybe Gus has this guy in charge of this area, and he's like the big villain of the show. Maybe it's about cops, or maybe that guy's the main character of the show. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
maybe make the link the blue. You know what I mean? The blue stuff,
Mm.
and
Interesting. That's like
'cause-
the little nugget that connects
right,
everything together.
right, like wherever that, just have it in a different setting. Because I remember at one point it showed a map or something of where maybe it was like a DEA scene. It showed a
Mm.
map of where they found all the blue meth. So maybe just somewhere else that Walter White's mission, his whole journey, some
His
other
legacy lives
people's
on.
lives where they affected. You know what I mean? Who else he affected that we never even knew he affected in the first place?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like a
I like that.
whole thing that goes on. Maybe it even you focus on a certain family, and one of the kids gets into it, and Gus used kids as dealers. You have a teenager or whatever, just like stuff like that. So I think that would be my show idea. And then for movie, like I said, just some characters that are like killed off or thrown to the side in Breaking Bad that could just have something explored. Because I remember there was going to be a show, a Walking Dead thing, where it explained the whole journey of that soldier in the first episode in the tank, and that fascinated me so much.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Speaking
I
of
don't know
walking, oh
where else
sorry.
that. Oh, sorry. I was just saying I don't know where else. I mean, I said the guys that got run over. Um, I don't know. Maybe we can have a whole story about the car wash owner there. Whole
What is it?
movie about him.
Bogda? Or
Bogdan, yeah. The eyebrows. Um, so yeah. What were you gonna
Bogdan, an
say?
origin story. I
Yeah.
like that.
Where you going before that?
Speaking of Walking Dead, in season 2, in Daryl's bike, Daryl finds Merle's stash. If you look on the bottom, there's a little bit of blue crystal in there.
Really?
Yes, and there's in season 4, the bottle episode with Daryl and Beth. Daryl says that Merle had this dealer. He was this skinny white tweaker, and he pulled a gun on Merle. Says, "I'm gonna kill you, bitch." And there's this
Oh,
major theory that that's Jesse.
let's see. Yeah.
So
I've heard a
Jesse,
lot of theories that they're in the same universe.
yeah, that the crystal started the whole zombie outbreak.
Oh, really? Like
Yeah,
long-term effects of it?
yeah.
Oh, I've never heard that. That's very cool. So
Do you
what?
believe that? Do you support that theory or no?
I don't think Walt. I think Walt knows what he was making, and I don't think he would have knowingly made zombies or unknowingly made zombies.
Same here.
Unless
Yeah.
I think he would have more likely to knowingly made zombies than unknowingly, but you never really see that as his intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, I I don't buy that. I could buy that, maybe they're in the same universe, but I would never buy that the blue meth is what caused the outbreak. Yeah, no.
All right. That concludes episode 7 of
Wow,
the
what an
Exactly
episode.
Entertainment podcast.
Great
Full
episode.
hour of Breaking Bad talk. What more could you want in the world? Thanks for listening, everybody. Tune in next week, and we will see you there.